Shenanigans.
Hey everyone,
What's
welcome
up?
to Truth Live Shenanigans. I go by the name Neo Nix, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us. If this is your first time, you picked a great show to check us out. For today's show, no hot topics today. I do have a quick fire question for the host, but the majority of shows for today is dedicated to our incredible guest, a civil rights icon, the youngest member of the Little Rock Nine, Carlotta Walls Lanier, will be joining the show telling her chilling story of integration in the Deep South. We'll be sharing your comments and taking your questions. And with all we've had going on in the last 4 years, it will be an amazing thing to hear the thoughts and feelings of a true leader against racial injustice. And of course, make sure you stick around to the end for our game show where we'll test out our host's knowledge on Black history. So make sure you share this live feed with your friends. I'm certain they'll appreciate it. Now, before we get into it, let me introduce you to my wonderful co-hosts, our professor, writer, editor, journalist out of Washington, D.C., Miss Lizzie Enders.
What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday Fun Day. I'm so happy to have all of you here to join us for this special moment in history where we are listening and hearing from a living legend. So sit back and enjoy and learn a little something.
Yeah. And our very own rock star with the amazing band Fallen Machine, coming to you from Sudbury, Ontario, Mr. Rob B. Rock.
What's up? What's up? Hey, everyone. Yeah, like Liz was saying, this is just an amazing show to be joining us for. It's not every day that you get to spend some time with a living historical icon. I'm really looking forward to this conversation today.
And streaming from Atlanta, Georgia, a model, actor, college student, and the show's infusion of youth and vigor, Miss Gianni Storm.
Work your
Hello,
angles, John.
hello, everybody. I'm very honored to actually be here. I kept telling myself that throughout the week that I was very excited for Miss Lanier to be joining us. So I just can't wait to get into her story. I've been reading all about her. And for the people that I've, asked to join in, I hope that you guys ask some really good questions.
All right. All right, so if you've never been to TLS, Truth Live Shenanigans, before, let me tell you a bit about us. Our hosts and our guests share their truths and opinions with you, call out those lies, and point out any ridiculous shenanigans going on. And on our show, we always try to have some fun with shenanigans of our own. Our show streams live just about everywhere, but you can find us quickly on YouTube. Just go to TLSshow.com or search at TLSLiveShow across all major social media platforms. Also, make sure you subscribe to the audio replay of the podcast on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Now, before we get to our honored guest, I do have a quick fire question for you guys. All right, hip hop radio host Charlamagne the God recently threw shade at the star of the biopic Judas and the Black Messiah, Lakeith Stanfield, saying he was born to play his role as the Judas. Lakeith clapped back, "This is what hoes do." Now, co-host, what would you have responded? Let's start with Gianni Storm.
I agree a little bit with Charlamagne in that Lakeith,
Really?
they have a long-lasting love-hate relationship. But I agree a little bit with Charlamagne that Lakeith played it a little bit too well.
All right.
That
Robbie Rock?
I watched the articles, I watched the videos. I still don't understand the nonsense going on. Just quit throwing shade and enjoy your mutual success.
All right, Lizzie Enders.
Agreed.
The donkey of the day is still out there hee-hawing, I see. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, how do you act too well? That's what actors do. That's how they get awards. That's how they get Oscars. Come on, y'all.
Charlamagne the God is just, I mean, he does this a lot, though. He does this to a lot of people. He can be rude sometimes. So he's doing his thing, and I might have done the same thing Lakeith did, to be honest. So, but for those that need a little, go ahead, Lizzie, go ahead. You're gonna say something?
I was just gonna a little background in terms of who Charlemagne the God is really. Like, I am kind of suspect of someone his own shadiness, lest we forget that he was accused of rape twice, that he admitted to getting the young lady drunk, putting Spanish fly in her drink, and then
Really?
having sex with her.
Really?
Yes, he admitted to that.
Yeah.
So
I've
if you
never
want
liked Charlemagne the God.
the background, how dare you come out and try to dog someone or throw shade at someone for their acting chops? Like, he was there to act a part in a movie, and he did it well.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
And,
else to say.
and for those that might need a little background, Charlemagne the God hosts the radio morning show, The Breakfast Club, and Lakeith Stanfield can be seen on TV show Atlanta and the hit film Get Out. Now, as Johnny said, they apparently have history. The interview was during an interview with Daniel Kaluuya, the co-star of the film, which is about the murder of Fred Hampton, the Black Panther leader. So now I want to point out Lakeith ultimately did delete that post, but he later posted a diss track titled Automatic with an image of Charlemagne with big lips, a hat, and a minstrel character. So anybody think he went too far with this one?
No, not as far as like, if you can't take the heat, get your ass out the kitchen. Like, Charlemagne has been ridiculous over the years in the way that he has done this shock jock thing. And I personally don't like shock jocks. Like, I don't believe in tearing down people just because it will garner you attention, just because it's the cool thing to do. And so, if anybody deserves it, it's Charlemagne, who is a Wendy Williams protege, I might remind
Oh,
you
is she?
all.
Is
He
he?
is. He is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, he got
Charlemagne's not my
starred.
favorite either. Yeah.
But Gianna, you were on his side a minute ago.
I'm on his side, but he's not my favorite. I'm on his side in the fact that Lakeith wouldn't do this to white media outlets. Like, it's easier to pick on the Black media outlets because you're not going to receive as much like backlash. Like, there's always something to say. There's always an opinion people have on like our Black content creators and radio stations and stuff. And I mean, for some good reason, but in this case, I think he did go too far. Like, what we all know what that picture symbolized at one point. So yeah.
Well, not at one point. Like the imagery, I really take exception with the imagery because if this was anyone from any other ethnic background using the same imagery, people would be losing their minds. But I don't care if this is a black on black attack in the media, like in social media. This is just inappropriate. It doesn't belong anywhere in the social fabric. This is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So my
Agreed.
point, don't start none, won't be none. And my question would be,
I'm with Lizzie on this one.
Savage.
so if Charlotte were to have Hopkins, who won an Oscar for playing, a serial killer, a deranged serial killer in Silence of the Lambs, would he suggest that he played that role too well? Would he suggest that maybe Anthony Hopkins really is Hannibal Lecter? Like, come on. He specifically targets Black folks and tries to get a reaction out of them. So yeah, I'm not here for Charlemagne
I can
tears.
agree.
I'm not here for tears at all. I think it's disgusting because again, if you haven't seen Judas and the Black Messiah, a lot of good acting.
It is a lot of good acting
off the board, and it tells a very important story. And so never once did I, while I was watching the movie, was I like, oh, well, I don't know about Lakeith. He playing this a little bit too well over there. Like, what?
Kaluuya made a good point. Kaluuya, when he responded, because he wasn't trying to have any of it from from Charlemagne, he said that it was great because Lakeith Stanfield made the sacrifice to play someone like a Judas, because it does have an effect on his, how people view him as not just an actor, but as a person when you play a role like that.
Yeah.
And he played a pretty good role. So Kaluuya really put him in his place. Daniel Kaluuya put him in his place. It was actually good to hear. So if you ever get a chance, check out that interview because
It did retaliate well.
But definitely check out the movie for sure.
Definitely check out the movie. It's a very good movie, very well done, very well acted, very well directed and produced. And again, as we are in Black History Month, it's a part of our history.
Yep.
It's a part of our history. So it's a very important story.
Yep. All right, now we've gotten the shenanigans out the way. It's time to get some truth behind the history with our guest spotlight on Black history. Today's spotlight is on Carlotta Walls Lanier of the Little Rock Nine. There she is.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And Ms. Lanier, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
How are you? How are you? How are you feeling out
well.
there? Good.
I'm doing well. Woke up to a beautiful scene this morning. Snow on all the tree leaves and bushes. It was actually gorgeous. But it's about 50 degrees now, so.
So for those of you who don't know, Carlotta is in Denver, Colorado. So has the mountain view in the backdrop, if you will, snow-capped mountains. But before we get to our discussion with Carlotta, let me just give you all a brief bio and intro as to who our icon is today. So Carlotta Walls Lanier, at the time Carlotta Walls, at age 14, was the youngest of the Little Rock Nine, which was a group of 9 African-American students who integrated Little Rock Central High School in 1957. The integration of the Arkansas High School was a catalyzing event in the American Civil Rights Movement, testing the landmark decision by the U.S. Supreme Court declaring segregation in public schools unconstitutional, and that would be Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, 1954. So after eventually graduating from Central High in 1960, Carlotta Walls Lanier studied at Michigan State University for 2 years before moving to Colorado. There, she enrolled at the University of Northern Colorado and earned her bachelor's degree in 1968. She, along with the other members of the Little Rock Nine, is the recipient of the nation's highest civilian honor, the Congressional Gold Medal, which was awarded by President Bill Clinton in 1999. She's also received the prestigious Spingarn Medal from the NAACP and the Lincoln Leadership Prize, which was awarded by the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library Foundation. She is also a recipient of 4 honorary doctorate degrees and is an inductee into the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So everyone, let's please give a round of applause.
What a wonderful guest.
So before we get to the Q&A and we start to hear your story, is there anything you want to let our viewing audience or our guests know about you that I didn't mention in that bio?
Well, thank you for the bio. Just a couple of changes there. I graduated from University of Northern Colorado, which was Colorado State College at the time, because that was back in the early middle 60s. And I'm also inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame, which I'm very proud of as well.
Wow.
It's right there, Seneca Falls, New York. So not that I did any of this at the age of 14 looking for those type of accolades, but anyway, they're welcomed now.
I bet.
Very good. And well earned.
Yes.
Well earned.
Well,
yeah. Being the pioneer that you are, definitely well earned.
Yeah.
So let's go to your actual story. So before we even get to 1957, set the tone for us in Little Rock before that. Like, what was Little Rock like for you before 1957? Growing up, or even how you experienced education up until that point?
Well, I went to, it was Jim Crow South. And we, as Negroes or coloreds, as we were called during those days, we sat in the back of the bus. We had to sit in the balcony of the theater. You could purchase your ticket with whites, but then you had to go around the side of the theater and go up rickety steps to the balcony of the theater. You could not use the public library. Um, you went to a library that was in a Quonset hut to check out books. Um, you could not go to the city park, um, but only on a certain day of the week,
Just the
as if
city
the
park.
animals knew the difference. So
Wow.
that was how my childhood happened to be, and I went to a segregated school. Um, Stevens Elementary School, and then to Dunbar Junior High School. And during that period of time, I love school. I learned a lot in school. I had great teachers, especially, well, in both instances, as far as secondary schools were concerned. So, I mean, I had African American teachers that had master's degrees. And I give a lot of credit to them for preparing us for the world, really. Not knowing whether integration was going to take place in Little Rock anytime soon, but they were preparing us to be able to go off to college and be a part of society, no matter where you might end up. So the thing happened to be is that we had a newspaper that was called the Weekly Reader, and I remember it so well. It was a newspaper that was written strictly for kids, and we would read about who was now the new um, Secretary of State, or the about presidents, about science achievements throughout the country or throughout the world. So I enjoyed all of that. Yes, I knew that as far as being able to enjoy all of the things that was there in Little Rock, I could not do that, at least not on my own terms. But I did have parents who basically told me that, and family members, that these things would change, and you needed to be prepared when that change takes place, whether the door opens with a crack or whether it's flung wide open. So that's how I grew up. I lived on a street that was all black. The next street over was all white, and in between there was this baseball, this open field that we turned into a softball field. And so I played with white kids all summer long. So, you just didn't go into each other's homes,
Mhm.
and you didn't socialize as far as adults go and so forth. But overall, I had a good upbringing, had a close knit family. Um, I participated in a lot of extracurricular activities. I was part of the YWCA, the Y Teens. My mother was a Girl Scout counselor, so we went to camp, and those are the things uh, that helped make me who I am today.
Mhm.
I give a lot of credit to my parents for having magazines and the encyclopedia in our home, and with that, I was always traveling around the world through the
Right.
magazines and the stories that I read. And I was just one of those kids that kind of like to touch and feel whatever I'm reading or, think about or what have you. So that was what it was all about for me.
We do have a quick question from our audience. Who did you look up to as a child at the time?
I looked
This is from
up
Ernest
to,
Cooper.
yeah, some family members I looked up to. Um, my grandfathers played a big role in my life. We had what we call Negro History Week.
Mm.
So I was always
Carter,
thinking about, yes,
Carter
it was just a
Woodson.
week. And and we dressed up, to be that person or what have you. And actually, that's where I got that interest in wanting to be a doctor because of what I had learned about Charles Drew, and I was and the only female, it was two females that struck me, as far as history goes. One was Madame Curie. I mean, that
Yeah.
was the only woman who stood out in the science field.
Hmm.
And 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 then there was a black woman in Little Rock who was a dentist. That was the only two that I knew that had gone down that path in the medical field. So I kind of wanted to be like that. Okay. And then all the other things that took place. Rosa Parks was one of my she rose for what she had done. But prior to that, I'm learning about all of the things that uh, people like me had done before me. Okay, that helped make this country what it is today,
Because
and
Rosa
I was
Parks was like
proud of
two
that.
years before you, right? Rosa Parks was about 2 years before the Little Rock
Yeah,
Nine.
she was 2 years before, right? And so those sort of things just stood out, as you read in magazines and you would see on that black and white television. And so, those are the things that kind of helped shape me as far as that goes.
And
I
so,
had a
what
lot
went
of
into
people helping shape me.
Right, Lizzie?
what went
Yeah.
into the decision to attend Central? Like, how did that come about in your household, with your parents, with your peers?
Okay, well, that happened in 1954 as far as Brown versus Board of Education. And I knew what it meant. We discussed it in our classroom. It was a part of that
Okay,
weekly reader that we received. So we
okay.
discussed it. It was discussed in my home. Everyone, my mother and father were proud of the fact of this Supreme Court decision and
Hmm.
what it could mean. We talked about it at the YWCA. We talked about it in my church. So it was a buzz throughout the city, right?
Mm,
So I thought, surely that was in May of 1954. So, and I'm playing softball with kids out there in the field, right? And I thought, sure, come September, that we would all be going to the nearest school. And that didn't happen.
mm,
The school board did say that they would abide by the Supreme Court decision, but they needed to put a plan in place. And unfortunately, that plan took from 1954 to 1957.
Mm.
So during that period of time, I went on to my black junior high school, which was a junior high and high school, and did extremely well there. And it was in my ninth grade year that my homeroom teacher came in, and he had picked up the bulletin that had been Xeroxed off in the office and walked in and read the bulletin for the day. And halfway down, he said, "Any of you," and he gave that live, and he gave street boundaries, and have any intentions of going to Central High School in the fall, please sign this sheet of paper. And he put it on the first desk. It went around the room. It got to me. I signed the sheet of paper.
Nice.
Didn't think, and he was not recruiting. I want you to understand that. He was reading a bulletin.
Okay.
So
right,
uh,
right.
So this was a decision.
it was I knew that this was my time to, hey, I pass this school every day. Why shouldn't I go to school there? And I had a right to go there.
I
See,
love
and
it.
that was a part of my foundation
Hmm.
of doing what was right, and that I learned at home. So I didn't even mention it to my parents when I got home.
Oh,
I
really?
mean, it was just no, they did. They they didn't know until I received the registration card in July.
So, what did
So,
they
Oh my
say when you
gosh.
when you got
Yeah,
the
that's
registration?
what they say. Yeah.
You plan to go to Central in the fall? Yes. You know, and I could see some pride in my parents' eyes, really, that I had made this decision without their extra input. You know, their input from cradle on had been to uh, uh, ex- be exposed to all the good things in life
Mm-hmm.
possible, and be to get the act to you wanted access to a better education, and you wanted all of the education you possibly could get. So you know that was just something that was just a part of our family. Um, you know, my father had been in World War II. Um,
Mine.
he he went to he so you know he was working during the day and going to junior college at night, and it got a little tough for him trying to handle the family and so forth. My mother was trying to complete her degree at Philander Smith College, and today she's still a semester away from that. So for me to want to know to you know to have the best available to be able to choose wherever I wanted to go. I mean that it made sense. I didn't see anything wrong with it.
Right.
I just want to real quickly, I want to read off some of the comments online. So Vaughn Perry quoted you, I had a right to go there. Olivia
That's right.
Olivia East says, wow, such a courageous decision from a child. Daria Winter said, oh, I'll get back to Daria Winter. So Vaughn Perry says, did you realize at the time how big a transformational moment this was going to be at the time?
No, I did not. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
no, I did not. And again, it goes back to knowing you're within the law, okay, and you know that you had a right to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So those things piled together, you know, no, I didn't think this was going to be any big deal. I did feel that there were going to be people who didn't want this to happen, right?
Of course.
Because I was reading that in the paper and so forth. But I also felt that there was a community there that after a while would step back and and
Mm.
and allow those things to take place. They would voice their opinion in a negative way, but in the long run, this being the capital of the state of Arkansas, um, it had a different vibe, if you understand what I'm saying. And see, there are pictures there. Yes, I saw those sort of things, but I thought it would all go away after a couple of weeks once they got to know us. So, um, you know, I was not looking for anyone um, to love me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was going to school to get a good education, and
Mm.
you know, some thought that, you know, sitting next to a white person was going to just send a buzz through me. I didn't get a buzz sitting next to a white person. All I wanted was the same thing they were getting.
So
So anyway,
let's go September 3rd. September 3rd, 1957. That was the day before the
right.
nine. And we'll introduce the nine in a moment. But the day before your first attempt to get into Central High School, did you get any that night? Like, what was going on in the Walls household on September 3rd?
Well, it was excitement. I was going to my new high school. Okay, it
Mm.
was not so much the new white high school. It was my new high school, and during those days, high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. So, you know, I was in the 10th grade. And I had this new dress. My mother was a great seamstress. And however, her uncle, who was my great uncle, had stopped by the house a week or so before and said he wanted me to have a store bought dress. Okay. So my
It's
mother and
not a
I,
dress.
Right. So, uh, we went downtown and we picked up this dress. I picked out this dress, and that is the dress that I wore. That, in fact, 2 first days, to be honest with you, and that is the dress that you now see, that you now is there at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And I don't know why my mother was um, so had such foresight to keep that dress. I found it, probably uh, 30 years later in her cedar chest, and
Wow.
I said, "Wow, you kept this?" And she said, "Yes, I did." So you
Wow.
can take it.
Wow.
So, and that's
History.
what happened.
That's what mamas
So
do. Mamas no special events and special things. They keep that historical stuff. They know.
They do.
they
That's
know
true.
you're absolutely correct. So that's how that piece took place. But the night before, I was just excited about going to school the next day. My mother dropped me off at the drop-off point, and I walked that block. I saw the other kids at the other end of the block, and there were a number of ministers there. It was a mixed group of ministers, and uh, it's funny. I expected more than the 9 that showed up that day. I will say that much, uh, because 39 of us had sat before the superintendent of schools and heard the litany of things that we could and could not do. So once I
Wow.
got there,
There's
yeah.
that dress.
So 30 of them dropped out.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
okay.
so
So
crazy.
it wasn't initially supposed to be
Wow.
just the 9. There was like
Oh
more
no,
than
it, it was 30. It was actually 147 kids lived in the boundaries, the
Okay.
school
30.
boundaries,
Okay.
and 114 signed up. But 39 of us evidently was selected by some group, okay, whether it was through the Little Rock School Board
I was gonna
and
ask that how you
possibly
were
the
selected.
NAACP. I call it the Jackie Robinson test. I think they probably looked at our grades and what we did in the community, and whether we were, might not be, uh, uh, you know, the greatest in everything, but we were the best available. That 39 were the best out of the
That's what I was wondering.
and
Okay.
And
Wow.
so
17,
then
whatever the criteria that they were using.
Okay.
and
But
so
you don't know
then
the criteria.
No, I don't.
Okay.
This
and
is
so then
just my thought.
On September 4th, from
Right.
that number, 9 showed up.
No, actually 10 showed up.
Hmm.
It
Okay.
was 10 of us there on the first day. Not all together, but it was 10 that showed up. And the 10th one never came back.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, let's
That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
let's just introduce the audience to the 9, like who the 9 are.
Sure.
So we have
All right.
Ernest Green. And so we're talking about, who they were as teenagers in 1957. So Ernest Green, Elizabeth Eckford,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Jefferson Thomas, Terrence
Right.
Roberts, Minnie
Mm-hmm.
Jean Brown, Gloria
Mm-hmm.
Ray, Thelma
Right.
Mothershed. Now help me with
Mm-hmm.
Melba's last name, because I speak with a Spanish accent sometimes. So I want to say Patillo, but I gather it's probably not pronounced that way.
It's Patillo.
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 That's
Patillo
what I
is how
figured.
is how she pronounced it. Yes.
So Melba Patillo, and then obviously, Carlotta Walls. So
Right.
take us to first day, September 4th.
That September 4th, as I said, I was dropped off. My mother dropped me off. She didn't have any anxiety about it, and neither did I. I was excited. And well, this was not the day right there, but anyway, we we got to the corner, and there was a prayer given by the ministers that was with us, and we then walked across the street. I saw the National Guard that was there, that the governor had said the night before on television that he was calling them out to protect the citizens of Little Rock. And
Not you,
because,
but the citizens of Little Rock.
so that's the day right there. And that I was surely considered myself a citizen. My father paid taxes just like everyone else. So
All right.
that didn't bother me. You know, hearing that, I thought that the National Guard was there to, protect us if there was going to be any problems. And we get there, and this commanding officer came up and pretty much spoke to one of the white ministers and said, "Take these kids and take them back home." And the Ernie made the comment, "You're telling us we can't go to the school and we can't go up this sidewalk?" And again, he spoke to the white person and said, they are not allowed to go into the school per the governor's orders. So we turned around, and we were escorted back home by the ministers, actually.
So in that
So
moment,
that's what started the whole process.
and in that moment, did you know, okay, this is about to be a thing. This is about to be
Well,
a thing.
yeah, I saw the mob across the street. I heard the name calling, but none of that bothered me. I knew that there were going to be people, that were going to act that way. But I also thought that
Oh my God.
that was September 23rd. But anyway, I knew that this was going to happen. I mean, that the mob was going to, it started growing. The mob was not
Right.
like that you just showed, okay? But there was a large group of people there, probably a good 100, okay? And but it grew from that day forward is what happened. And by September 23rd, it was over 1,000 people out there, uh, you know, uh, calling names, saying everything that they could think of, and parents wanting their kids to come out of the school, especially when they found out that we had gotten in on September 23rd. And it was by that time, only 17 policemen were surrounding the school because of the governor had pulled away the National Guard. He had pretty much lied to the President of the United States when he went to Newport News, Rhode Island, not Newport News, but Newport, Rhode Island, where the president was. So,
You said,
and
are
they
we
had
talking
this
about Governor?
discussion.
We're calling about
Governor
Faubus.
Faubus.
I will
Yes.
not force my people to integrate against their will.
Yeah, he's.
So,
And let me just reiterate, like, these are teenagers. Carlotta, Mrs. Lanier was 14 at the time. We're talking about 14, 15, 16-year-olds. These are children who are
right.
meeting all this pushback and vitriol for simply trying to go to school, have their first day of high school. So I think that's something that, the viewing audience needs to keep into perspective. You guys weren't,
Right.
here taking, a nationwide making a protest. At least not in your mind, it wasn't a protest. In your mind, it was, let me go to school. And so Neo is currently showing a
Exactly.
video of Elizabeth Eckford, so you all were at the school trying to get in, but she got separated she didn't get with the main group on that first day. And so
Right.
as she was trying to go to school, she was alone and was met by an angry white mob. And this is one of the most iconic pictures from that time of her walking in. Was she 15 at the time?
She was
I think
15
she
at
was
the time, right?
15 at the time, walking to school by
She was a
herself.
junior. Yeah.
an
Right.
angry mob of adults are following her, yelling, screaming, throwing things.
Hitting
So
on
my
her.
question, when you finally met up with Elizabeth, what did she say
Mhm.
about that moment?
You, you know, it was like a couple of days later
Mm.
before actually that I saw Elizabeth, and who was a very quiet person to start with, and um, and inward, you know, about her feelings and so forth. So she didn't really say a whole lot other than she was thankful for Grace. Boy, I can't think of her last name now. That helped her to get on the bus to go home because that crowd was standing around her. There were a number
Crazy.
of
Child.
reporters there, especially the one from the New York Times, who was really trying to
Wow.
help her. And because he had three daughters at home, he said, we got to meet him. Benjamin Fine was his name. So, you know, it stayed with her for probably about 40 years. This whole process, all of us handled it differently. But for
Mhm.
Elizabeth, she really did not get help until about 40 years later.
Oh, wow.
And now
So she was
today
struggling
she
with it
can talk about,
that long? Wow.
yeah, she,
Wow.
and you know, it was pretty devastating.
I can
Um,
imagine.
you know, each person just, you know, it's nine of us with nine different stories, none greater or lesser than the other. And
Right.
so, and hers is special as well.
I've got some comments online real quick. So Jacqueline Robbins says that clip is devastating to watch. Daria Winter wants to know, how did it not bother you? Call it a mob. The mob we just saw at the Capitol was frightening to members of Congress who are not even little children facing a mob. And Fred Hargrove also asks, how did you stay strong? Wikipedia says you never cried or retaliated.
No. Well, you know, we couldn't retaliate. That was one of those, that list of things that we heard from the superintendent of schools.
Wow.
uh, and my retaliation was always different. It was never been physical. Okay. It was, you know, I refused to stoop to their level.
Mm-hmm.
That was another thing that I learned at home. And um, I decided that it was their problem and not mine, okay, because I knew I was right and I knew I had the law on my side. So, knowing those sort of things, that you are doing the right thing, helped me to get through that, along with my faith, as far as that goes. I mean, I had support from my uh, uh, church there, family members supported me. People from all over the world sent letters to us. I have letters from people from everywhere, Africa, from Denmark to from Germany, wherever. So all of these things that, you know, this was the beginning of news on television. You know, showing these sort of things on television.
Mm.
And during those days, you had 15 minutes of national news and 15 minutes of local news. And we were on the news every day. So, you know, today you get news 24/7. But during those days, you only had 15 minutes of national news. So just
Wow.
imagine that being transported throughout the world, um, and being read about and seen in clips in magazines and so forth by people in other countries. So, you know, the president of the United States had a problem on his hands because, you know, this was like states' rights against federal law is what it really,
Mm.
you know, was the problem there. Okay. And initially he really didn't want, one of the nine, gives a lot of credit to President Eisenhower for sending in the 101st Airborne. My feeling was, what took you so long? But anyway, we all have a different feeling about this. So
I have a quick clip
I
of
felt like
Dwight
he
Eisenhower.
had to show, that he was president of the United States and he believed in the Constitution, and then he stepped up to that. Unfortunately, these past 4 years, we didn't have that. But anyway.
Let me just show this real quick.
Such an extreme situation has been created in Little Rock. This challenge must be met, and with such measures as will preserve to the people as a whole their lawfully protected rights in a climate permitting their free and fair exercise. In the present case, the troops are there pursuant to law, solely for the purpose of preventing interference with the orders of the court. Such an extreme situation.
Yeah. And so you're saying he took too long.
Well, that was my feeling because, growing up, you always heard, you need to get your education, you need to go to college, and then you get out there to get a job, but understand that you're going to have to be twice as good, if not three times as good as that white person, right? So here I am. I felt I could compete with anyone given the same start time and the same finish time, right? Well, we couldn't go to school. September 4th, we were turned around. September 23rd, when we tried to get in, we were in there for about 2 hours and then had to be rushed out. And then finally, September 25th. So all during that time, litigation was taking place in the federal courts. And we weren't in school. We weren't in class. So it was only that last, and I'm thinking we're getting further and further behind. And that was bothering me because I really did feel that, I could compete if everything was a level playing field.
Equal.
But it was not level because I was not in school.
So
really quick.
But once I got in there, I found out, I could do.
Vaughn Perry, one of our viewers, had a question. So while this was going on, what was the response from the Black community in Little Rock?
It's a good question. Generally speaking, supportive, but there was a group of various Black people who would sidle up to one of us and say, "Don't you think you need to go back to your Black high school? It's, to go to Horace Mann because it's causing havoc for us. We're having a hard time with our jobs. My wife lost her job, or it was very difficult for all, including the parents of the nine. I mean, my father lost his job every time they'd find out that he was the father of one of those going to Central. But the church was very supportive. And there was dissension within families too.
I can imagine.
Some family members, including in mine, I had a couple there that was always saying to my mother, "You need to bring her home. She shouldn't be up there." And one was the librarian of the Black high school. And I couldn't understand that. That was, and I worked in the library there when I was in junior high school, and she was not, she was wanting my mother to bring me home. But as I got older, I understood that, she feared for my safety is what it really boiled down to.
Protection.
Right.
So, but as a 14-year-old now, and all the things that you have taught me up until that time, and then now you're saying I shouldn't do this,
Yeah.
and so it was confusing to me there when it was family members who didn't want was giving us a little problem within the family.
All right, I want to get to
But yes,
our other,
it happened.
I want to get to our other panel members, but I do want to just point out some comments online real quick. Mila said, your retaliation was not letting them take your rights away as a human being to go to school and graduating. Kadish Franklin says, Toni Morrison said, I always knew we had the high moral ground. I knew we were always superior morally.
So let me just say,
We are.
Carlotta, let me just say, Carlotta, Kadish is from Little Rock. He's from Little Rock. Yes, he's from Little Rock. So he has a special interest in your appearance here.
All right, Robbie Rock,
that?
I want to get to one of your questions, Robbie.
Two-part question. How has your life experience altered your perception of the events of Little Rock as you went through it? And in your opinion, how has American society changed or stayed the same?
I just want to point out Robbie Rock is from Canada, so
Robbie
different
Rock
perspective.
is from Canada, yes.
So yes, the Ontario curriculum didn't have a whole lot to present about you, so this was a wonderful week to learn a lot about your story, and this has just been a wonderful experience.
Yes. In fact, the first documentary that was done on me was from someone in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Which was
nice.
Yeah.
Canada does do something right.
Right. But let's see. The question again.
Repeat the question, Robbie.
So, how your life experience has altered your perception of the events that took place in Little Rock, and if you feel that American society has progressed or stayed the same.
You mean as she got older? Okay.
Well, there's been a lot of progress. I'm going to at least answer that for you. And unfortunately, we have not stayed vigilant enough to for these things not to happen again, because they are happening all over again. And as Americans, we need to realize that these gifts that we have accomplished and things that we have done over the years to make things better for us and for all people are gradually being taken away. And we need to stand up to those sort of things and make sure that we hold on to them. A lot of times, the various laws that have been passed, true enough, have not been complete for everyone. But you don't just throw that law out. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You make it a little bit better, and you amend these laws and so forth. So because it takes too long to even get to that place. I mean, take voters' rights laws. I mean, we need that, and now we're having these suppression laws in voting. People wanting to change that law. So we need to stand up to those sort of things, and recognize that your vote does count. And so I just see those. I see a lot of progress. I really do. I mean, since 1954 to today, we have gained a great deal in this country. And but people need to understand that we all have to give to make this country what it is today. And unfortunately, there's a group that is growing that needs to be re-educated. These are ignorant people. They do not know the history of this country, period. And they need to know it.
I get frustrated with seeing the American flags thrown around, because it was the same thing back in your day where American flags were being used by people who were, I don't want to say white supremacists, but I don't know what you refer to them as. In your day, obviously, that's what we refer to them now. But American flag, it starts to look bad to you.
Well, I saw that Confederate flag as a kid along with the American flag, okay, our flag. And yes, here you have a picture here that this group of people are using the American flag. And at that time, I think it was 48 stars on the flag. So, um, this is, it's very unfortunate that there's, there's this group. And see, they were Ku Klux Klan as I was growing up.
Ku Klux
That's
Klan, right?
who we, you know,
Yep.
white
Refer to
supremacy was the words that were used in the Ku Klux Klan.
KKK. Yep.
Nowadays, there's all these other groups that are out there, but they're all the same as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Um, someone had made the comment. I think it was President Clinton that which took me back to thoughts that we had among Black people about crabs in a bucket,
Yep.
And his statement was that, you know, there are people who always uh, want to bring the person ahead of him down. They're always wanting to pull them down. In the Black community, we always called it crabs in a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep. I
crabs
know.
always.
Heard it
Yeah.
often.
So that is what is happening because they do think that we have too much. Well, they can have the same if they work at it and accept other people as a human being. We're all human beings, and we should all enjoy the liberties of this country.
So I have a quick question before we get to the other panels. Just going back to being in Central. Once you guys got in, and there still was a lot of pushback from your fellow students and classmates.
Right.
What about the teachers? How did the
The
teachers? Yeah, how did the teachers treat you or respond to you?
Okay, like society, there was a group of teachers that were helpful. There was a group that looked the other way, could care less, and then I discovered who a part of that group was who was making it difficult for us. One of them was my chemistry teacher. But let me just give you, hopefully it's a quick story. I had a Spanish teacher who did not want me there. And she should have retired before I got there. And she did retire that October. But my best teacher was my biology teacher. And he had graduated from Central. He had gone to the University of Arkansas. He was a part of the ROTC. He went to the Korean War. He came back to Little Rock to teach at his alma mater. And he was the one who encouraged me to be in science fairs. He watched over me in the auditorium. I knew that he never said anything in addition to being a disciplined teacher. He didn't say I'm looking after you or anything of that nature, but he did. And I knew that. I felt that he knew that this was the right thing going on. Now, I know he loved his mother, and he grew up at his mother's table. So my guess is that he took the good from his mother and left the bad behind because, it was really that she was on one side and he was on the other.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
that, and I think a lot of it has to do with being exposed and that's being educated. Okay. You've got to learn about other people. You have to
I agree.
take the time to understand that we all want the same things in life. We really do. Okay. And we should all have that same opportunity to do that. And all we were asking for is the same access,
Okay.
the access to the best education available.
I just want to say, I want to get to Gianni Storm next, but I just want to say that I don't know that had you not stood up the way you did, that we would have the access to what we have now. So I personally appreciate you choosing to take that stand. You and the nine choosing to take that stand
At
at
14, shooting at 14.
I mean,
Yeah.
at 14,
That was
I was thinking about basketball and you know,
I was thinking about purses. I was thinking about Gucci and MCM bags at 14. So I don't think I would.
Gianni, you know what Gianni, what were you thinking about at 14? That wasn't too long ago. What were you thinking about at 14?
At 14, at 14, I had just moved from like 2 high schools, so I was thinking about settling down and just finding new friends and sticking with them.
All right, so what's your
Right.
question, Gianni?
Ms. Lanier, my question is, given all of the racial uproar, such as the Capitol riots and George Floyd, what are your, I know it's a lot, but what is your kind of take
Yeah.
on the progression that we've come to, like where we're at now?
Well, it hurt me so much to see what was taking place with George Floyd. That did take place. It was the next level Emmett Till, as far as I was concerned. That's where it took me.
Wow.
Okay.
And
All right.
and prior to that was the Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
Right.
Murder. That really, I was thinking that the kids I was speaking to then was going to take Trayvon Martin to be their Emmett Till, okay? But then George Floyd is really the one, okay? Because there it was being televised, the whole 9 yards. But what warmed my heart was the fact that throughout the world, demonstrations took place. It was not just here. Demonstrations took place in other parts of this world, and it was the demonstrations here in the United States was diverse. So that said to me that there is this humanity that we need to think about. We
Right.
need to uphold and stand up against these sort of things that are taking place. Now, I think Black Lives Matter pretty much came out of the Trayvon Martin situation, I
Yes.
think. And with that, the uh, it has grown. But I did have flashbacks on January 6th. I'm gonna be honest with you,
Right.
I really did.
I bet.
So, and to see those once the National Guard was there on the floor of the Capitol. I mean, bivouacked inside the Capitol. They were bivouacked on my campus
Wow.
at Little Rock Central High School. So I'm seeing some of the same sort of things that are taking place. And what was really disheartening is to see the flags being used the way they were being used, and the
Yes.
Confederate flag in the Capitol. I mean,
Thank you.
that
Thank
that
you.
did
That
it for
was
me.
so
That did it for me.
that was
And then
so
for these
offensive.
dadgum, legislators not to do what is right. I don't know. RIGHT does not mean anything to them.
Yeah. There's no
No, I
moral,
agree with you
no
about
ethic.
when I saw that image of the protester, very brazenly, carrying the Confederate flag through the Capitol. And the Capitol, again, I'm in Washington, D.C., folks. The Capitol, I can see the Capitol from my view behind me. The Capitol is a 15-20 minute walk from my apartment. Despite what you heard, Black folks are very patriotic. We
Yeah,
like the country that we live in, even though it has a lot of flaws. This is my country. This is where I was born. This is where I live.
right.
And so to see that young man in the Capitol brandishing the Confederate flag, I was just so offended and hurt. Like, I just
Yeah,
never thought
same here.
in 2021 that we would be at this point.
Well, I feel the same way. I'm noticing something on my computer here. My battery is getting low, so I want to just
Okay.
forewarn you. I might have to end up
Wrapping up.
having to
Okay.
get back on.
So let
No
me just wrap up with just going to senior year. February 1960. I read in your book that you said at that time things had died down a little bit. You were excited about graduating, and then what
Correct.
happened?
Unfortunately, on February 9th, around 10 o'clock, my home was bombed
Oh,
with my mother and my two sisters there. Uh, my father, as I said before, had problems getting work, so he was working at his father's cafe, um, and it unfortunately my neighbor who lived up the street was after 2 weeks of investigation, they decided that he was uh, a part of planting the bomb,
mm.
and which we knew he hadn't. My father had been picked up and had been interrogated, and after 72 hours, they released him. They they beat they beat a confession out of
No.
my friend Herbert Muntz, and I'm sure that they tried to beat one, and I know they did. Attempted, they had beaten my father as well.
Mm.
But this was a 16-year-older that was sentenced to 5 years uh, of bombing my home, which I know he did not do.
Oh my
My
God.
father was never indicted, but my father's friend was indicted, and but was never sentenced. So it was Herbert was railroad. That's all it boiled down to.
Wow.
Later, um, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I was told a neighbor did see this car with these two white men in it who had put the bomb there. And so, and he told his father, okay? And his father told him, we can't get involved in this. And this was a black neighbor.
Mm.
So, um, so many different people suffered in different ways because of the times, okay?
Very true.
And I cannot hold anyone um, pretty much responsible other than the fact that if those two can sleep at night, if they're still living, well, okay. All I needed to do was to go back to school that next day because I needed to let this, whoever it was, know that you have not won,
I mean, those
that
thoughts as a
I'm
14-year
still
old,
here.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
now I
So,
think she was 17 now, but even still, as a teenager, that's
Yeah.
very noble of you. It's very courageous. It's I think of myself
well,
again at 17. I probably would have been in the streets trying to fight somebody. Like
I know.
it just
But that was
it's
I
because
needed
of,
it, but Elizabeth, I needed that diploma. And that's
yeah.
why I was going back. And, I needed this diploma to vindicate and all the time that I had spent there. Okay. I needed that to, to, uh, and this too is at the National Museum of African American History and Culture that I gave to them. And it means a lot to me because it was a commitment
Yeah.
I made in the 10th, from the 10th grade. Uh, and I graduated, and I am the only female of the Little Rock Nine that participated in graduation exercise.
oh
So I
wow, I
feel
didn't know
good about
that.
it. I really do. So
So you're the only one who received the
that was my.
diploma of the Little Rock Nine? I mean, only female? Only female?
I'm the only female that participated in graduation exercise.
Oh, I see. Oh no, did we
No,
lose her?
actually, like walk on stage.
I think we
I
did
think we
lose her.
lost her.
Well, let's give her a chance to come
Oh,
back. Maybe she'll still come back. Let's
back, but let's see some of the comments that if we can.
Yeah.
From
Let me get to those.
Oh, you want me to read? I thought you were reading something.
Sorry, I was trying to resolve an issue. Go ahead.
So yeah, we kind of butchered her name earlier, but our good friend Me Lee, she says, "Thank you, Carlotta, for your sacrifice and everything you have done and continue to do. Your strength and perseverance to be treated the same as everyone has made an impact on all of us. Great show, everyone, especially Carlotta and Elizabeth." Oh, thank you.
She's back.
And my back. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. No problem. We're happy to have you back.
So, Carlotta, I don't know if you remember our friend from college, Me Lee, but I was just John Lee's sister. So I was just reading a comment from her. And so she was thanking you for your perseverance and dedication and how it's been inspiring. So,
well, thank you. I guess I do remember the brother sister combo there at University of Colorado.
The brother sister combo.
They're like the Wonder Twins. Even though they weren't twins, they were like the Wonder Twins.
Right.
I do want to get to Robbie, Rock, and Gianni for at least one more question. So let's see if we can get that in now that since Ms. Lanier is back. So Robbie, did you have a second question?
Well, everything that happened in Little Rock was pretty crazy. I know that Orville Faubus in 1958 opted to close Arkansas public high schools rather than align with the integration laws. So what did it mean to you when Arkansas finally fell in line in 1972?
The video came up. He closed the schools in 58, and litigation took place for a year. Now, and finally the schools reopened in 59, at the year 59-60, and that's when I went back.
Yes, my question was more as far as Little Rock, Arkansas schools did not, or Little Rock, Arkansas public schools did not become fully integrated until 1972. So that was quite a while. And so what was your impression? Because this was like a lifetime way ago, because you were a 14-year-old girl when all this started.
I agree. I think at that time, one of the 9, Terrence Roberts, was a counselor, was a consultant for the Little Rock School Board during those days. Let me say this, Rob. I graduated May 30th, 1960, and I caught the first thing smoking out of Little Rock the next day. And I really had no intention of going back to Little Rock. And it took me 6 years to go back.
Wow.
But since then, I have been back many times, okay? And I do know that they probably did have problems. I didn't even want to hear about what was happening in Little Rock. It took me 30 years to even talk about this time in my life, okay? So you're telling me something, you're giving me a year that I didn't know. I didn't know it was 1972, that it was finally integrated throughout the school system. Unfortunately, and it had a lot to do with a lot of pushback, I'm sure, from various groups there in Little Rock, and different school board members. So, it speaks to whatever the community, the 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 push that's going on, or the lack of push going on in trying to make it equal for all kids. Education is so key, and we all need it. Black, white, yellow, green, whatever.
Yes.
We all need to be educated. And it's so unfortunate that that is not the number one. It was number one as I was growing up. Everyone wanted that education. Okay, and we wanted to be number one in the world, and we were. up until recently, as far as graduating from high school and graduating from college,
Mhm.
some statistic that I saw about 3 years ago, we were like number 16 in the world as far as
Wow.
graduating. And that's not good, folks. Hey,
No,
you
it's
know,
not.
Not at
and
all.
and and that comes down to
Not.
core value, how you feel about yourself, about what you want to do in this world. You need this education. You need to be educated. So,
No.
Yes.
I'm not saying that you've got to be some professional, such as a lawyer or a doctor or uh, those sort of things, but you need to be certified in something. You need to understand that this and have some be passionate about whatever it is that you're interested in, and work that passion.
Mhm.
That's how I see it. And then it's not a job. This is something that you enjoy doing, but you need to have something behind you that says that you are able to get this type of work done, whatever it is.
All right, Johnny, last question from the panel. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Do you have any, well, that was sort of advice, but do you have any last words or advice for young activists that are, um, I guess, trying to become more equal or just to abolish racism in general in the US?
Yeah,
Well,
because we have
you
that new
know,
movement. We have a new movement now. So,
Yeah, Black Lives Matter and all that.
yeah, well, which has been going on for about 10 years or so.
yeah.
I still say that you really need to know who you are and whose you are, and be centered. Once you have that, you can do almost anything you want to in this world today. Um, and and be find your passion. I still say that you need to find your passion and work it, okay, to your advantage. Um, and be involved in things that you find important. Look at those
Okay.
kids in Florida at Parkland. Gun control
Mm.
is the big thing, right? And they are expressing their opinion. And young
Right.
people need to understand that they have a voice. And
Hmm.
with that voice, change can take place. That voice into action, and change will take place. And I think it was Frederick Douglass who said, without struggle, there's no progress. So, folks, just you have to realize you still have to struggle and work towards something better.
So before you
Thank you.
go, I mean, I'm going to give you a minute for some last words, but I want to go through these comments that are online. There's a ton of comments thanking you. So we have D'Angelo, we have Valerie Warren Bird, a true hero, she calls you. Kadish, I'm sorry, they're just jumping around. So many comments coming up. Valerie Warren Bird says, love the show. Vaughn Perry says, she was amazing. Thank you for inviting her. Reuben Gorin is asking to have a part 2 to have you back.
Oh,
um, Joy Birdsong, so much to take away from this episode.
hey,
Randy
Joy.
Carr says, yes, we seem to have surrounded ourselves with stuff that makes our lives so easy that we become lazy in the process. Daria Winter says, we must be centered, must know what it is to be centered. Absolutely, that is the recommendation I give to my students daily. Find your passion. Jose Holt says, thank you so much for sharing. Paulette Bertrand said, please come back. Totally impressed. So you are a shiro. That's coming from Katie Revive Harley. That's Katie did. A shiro. That
All right now.
I love it. I love it. Jen Huggins said, you are a hero, so brave. Thank you. Randy Carr says,
Oh,
what this fine
Thank you.
lady has uh, was sorry, fine lady has seen so much in her life that we could never complain about today. Strength of you and your community is amazing. That's again from Katie did. So a lot of great comments. Karen Yvette said Thomas. So a lot of great comments from everyone online. They're so thankful that you joined us. I'm thankful personally.
Well,
Again, I truly don't believe that I would have achieved what I've achieved in my life without the sacrifices that you and your counterparts chose to make in 1957. I mean, that was an amazing choice and a decision. I mean, for me to hear that that was a decision that you made at 14 just inspires me today. So I just want to say I thank you for that. I thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you for having me on.
I want to give you a chance to just say some last words. Say whatever you want. I just.
It's been fun, and I appreciate all of the accolades that were put in the chat box, and wish I could be with all of you.
You are
And,
amazing, inspiration for sure.
Let's do what we need to do, and we need to, be supportive of our administration and do what we need to do out there to make um, to catch up with with all the things that have been taken away from us here recently. So we need to redefine this country.
All right, and we're going to do that. Thank you again. I am inspired by you, and we were going to. I just want to say we created this show because we wanted to make the changes you're talking about. We wanted to, get the word out, get this information, your stories, things like your stories is what we wanted to get, the truth to the people. So I truly appreciate it. Thank you again for joining us. And I'd love to have you back. I would love to have you back. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You guys
Thank you.
take care.
Thank you, Miss Lanier. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Wow. All I can say is wow. That amazing. I don't even have words for it. I am seriously. I'm with you. That has impacted me. That has significantly impacted me. So I can't even just to be able to speak to someone like that.
Oh no, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to bring her on. For those of my friends who are watching know that Carlotta and I go way back. I first met Carlotta when I was an 18-year-old freshman at the University of Colorado. But I also appreciate that we still have living legends with us who are able to tell their story. It's one thing to read about something in a history book or in an encyclopedia or something like that, but to have someone still be here, not only to physically tell their story, but to make you aware that this didn't happen not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's a fact.
We're talking to someone who was still living through a very segregated United States. And so
especially with everything going on now. I mean, everything we've got going on now, and to hear, where it was even worse. I mean, and then what it took to get to even where we are now, and then to go backwards the way we did over the last 4 years. I mean, it's just amazing to me, just that story alone.
It's been amazing to me the entire time that I've known Carlotta. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about certain things about the past. She's counseled me on certain things. We've laughed about certain things, but it's again one of those things I reflect on. Like, I wish there were more people like her who are still here, who would come to us and encourage us and inspire us. And this is where we were, and we still have a long way to go. So we need to get right.
And we heard it from her. She said we still have a long way to go.
Get right. We need to get right.
All right, so
thank you.
Yes, thank you again, Carla. So we have to end our show. This was a very deep show, but we always do like to end our show. I know we're way over in time, but we can make it happen. We have to have our fun little game show. Let's get it in here. All right, we're going round robin style. I simply ask a question, and you'll have 4 multiple choice answers. This is going to be Black History trivia. All right, get it right, you get a point. Now, this might be a runaway for Lizzie since she's like a basic expert. So Gianni and Robbie, I'm going to give you a little help. She's gonna complain about
How do you
cheating.
know I need
She's gonna
help?
complain about cheating. I'm gonna give you a little help.
What? How you know she need help?
Yeah, I don't need help.
You guys can get a little extra time for our audience to answer one question for you.
Right.
All right, are we ready? I'm starting with Gianni Storm on this one because it's a kind of easy question. Let's see. What was the name of Dr. Martin Luther King's father's church? Not Dr. King's church, his father's church. Was it the Ebenezer Baptist, Atlanta Southern Baptist, Southern Church of the People, or Atlanta Tabernacle?
I can't really see that text.
I think it's C, Southern Church of the People.
Southern Church of the People. Oh, I'm sorry to say that I am certain that is not the right answer. Let's see.
I'm certain.
Certain.
That is incorrect.
Can you see that text? I couldn't really see it.
That's why I'm reading it off. I'm reading it off for you.
That's why I had to
I got you
go
covered.
all the way in.
I got you covered. All right. But it was the Ebenezer Baptist Church. In his spare time, King rested, wrote, and preached at Ebenezer Baptist, a recently restored gym at 407 Auburn Avenue in Atlanta. All right. Our next question is going to be for Rob B.
Cool. Should have known.
What group launched the Freedom Rides in 1961? Was it the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union,
Robbie's from Canada. Remember y'all.
SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, CORE, Congress on Racial Equity, and or SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee?
I'm going to take the multiple choice rule of thumb and take a C.
C. All right, let's see what the answer is. That is correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Good job.
Why did it work for him?
Good job. All right, 1 point for Rob B. Good job, Rob B.
Yeah, ma'am. Neo already thought that you would need some help right off the gate, so he ain't gonna, give
Help
you
against you? Shoot, I need help
Set me
against
up
you.
for failure.
All right. At the time of historic bus incident, what was Rosa Parks' occupation? Was it a hospital orderly,
I can't
drugstore
see
clerk, high school cafeteria worker, or department store seamstress?
You do know
Yeah, what
that
was
I
she?
wear.
I'm reading it. I'm reading it for you. I got it. I'm reading it for you.
But can you repeat? Can you repeat the names of the?
Okay. At the time of historic bus incident, what was Rosa Parks' occupation, Lizzie? Was it his hospital orderly, drugstore clerk? I don't know why I can't talk suddenly. A high school cafeteria worker, or department store seamstress?
To be honest with you, I don't think I know this one.
Don't be looking online.
Yeah.
Don't be cheating. You can't get help.
Right.
Good grief! My hands are here. I'm not looking online. Let's see.
She seems like a seamstress to me.
Hey, don't be giving answers away.
Oh yeah, true. We're
Johnny,
against.
help
We're,
my brother
we're
out.
enemies.
I've got 1 point.
We teamed up, Yanni. We teamed up.
Girls versus guys.
Yeah, I want to go with D.
You're gonna go with D, seamstress?
Yeah.
Johnny's giving you help. Look at that. That is correct.
Like I said, you're the one who told her short. You're the one who said she might need help. Thank you, G.
That's so funny.
I should give Gianni the point. All right. SNCC member Stokely Carmichael was instrumental in forming the Lowndes, I think I'm saying that correctly, County Freedom Organization in Alabama. What was its symbol? A balance scale, the letters MLK, a Black Panther, or a raised fist?
I can tell you what it wasn't.
With Freedom Organization as in.
You should be like, you should tell Lizzie that she owes you an answer.
I want to say A.
A, a balance scale? Let's see if that's right.
Wait, let me see.
Oh,
I hope.
you said wait. Balance scale, letters MLK, a Black Panther, or raised fist?
I know it's not a raised fist or a Black Panther. I think. Okay, so it's A.
A, you're going with A? That is incorrect. Incorrect. It is a Black Panther. Huey P. Newton,
Please don't
Bobby
judge me,
Seale
people.
got permission to adapt the emblem for their Oakland-based Black Panther Party. All right. Okay, so Gianni, 0 points for you. You're not gonna make it to the third round. All right. Who wrote this best-selling memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings? This is for Robbie. Was it Maya Angelou, Coretta Scott King, Fannie Lou Hamer, or Rosa Parks? The best-selling memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings.
Come on, Rob. Come on, Rob.
Coretta Scott King.
Coretta Scott King. All right, let's check it. That is incorrect. Incorrect, Robbie. Incorrect. It is from
Oh
Maya
yeah, I know that
Angelou.
one.
Robbie, I have 3 copies of it here, so I can send
I was
you
going to
one.
say, I figured Lizzie has read a few times.
I can
The
send
book
you
Maya
explores her
Angelou.
early years spent in St. Louis and Stamps,
He's
Arkansas.
going to give me some random question. Let's see here.
Hopefully it's a
Yeah.
really tough one.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You
Oh,
get the
come
easiest
on.
one of all.
Why you-
Oh my God.
This is great.
What was Muhammad Ali's original name? Was it Leviticus Lewis, Marcellus Moore, Cassius Clay, or Aaron Brown? You say Cassius Clay? All right, let's try. This is like the easiest question. That is correct. Correct.
What was Maya Angelou?
Yeah, Maya
All right.
Angelou was
So
a
Robbie, you got one chance to beat her. At least you have a chance to tie. Let's see. I'm sorry, Gianni, you're out. You're out. In 1960, 4 African-American college students staged a sit-in that helped integrate this store's lunch counter. Was it
Come on,
Woolworth,
Robbie.
W.T. Grant, G.C. Murphy, S.S. Kresge? I don't know what that is.
Oh, Lord.
name of the store.
Yep, the name of the
I
store.
remember the event.
Vaughn Perry said, oh, by the way, Vaughn Perry says his mama called him Cassius. Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a C again.
Really? You can check
Maybe
with the
A.
audience. I'll give you a chance to check with the
Maybe A.
audience.
Yeah, okay, I'm good with taking the C.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm trying to help you out. Clearly, that's not working.
Give me the Muhammad Ali question.
That is incorrect, Robbie. That means that Lizzie wins the game. Good job, Lizzie. Good job. By the way, it was Woolworths. The store was in downtown Greensboro, North Carolina. So
I was about to say it's a store, I think, in at least a couple of cities. It's still around. I
Yep.
think Woolworths is still around in a couple of cities.
yeah, it is in a couple of cities. It is. I lived in Greensboro, North Carolina for a while, so I actually remember the.
I
Right.
visited Greensboro a few times.
Yep.
I
Interesting.
got family in Greensboro, so
It's like
Wow.
everybody's from North Carolina for some reason. All right, let's get our shout outs in. Let's get our shout outs in. All right, let's start out with Gianni Storm. Shout out Gianni Storm.
Shout out to the truth, the TLS Creatives Contest, also called Name That T-shirt or Design That T-shirt. This is the last week to enter, so enter. You don't even, at this point, just have a creative idea or a creative photograph or something to submit. The link will be in the bio on all of our social media.
All right, Robbie Rock, shout out.
Shout out to all of the audience members that joined us this evening and in the participation. It was great to see so many of you actively engaged in what was going on. And special thanks to our guests. That was just an absolutely amazing hour.
Lizzie Enders.
shout out to, again, just piggybacking off of Rob, shout out to Carlotta Walls Lanier. Shout out to her daughter, that's Brooke Lanier, and to her son, Whitney Lanier. Like, shout out to everybody. You know, this has been such a great experience and a learning experience even for me today, just consuming all of our information and the stories. So let's keep it moving, folks. Let's move forward with diversity and equality in this country.
All right, so
love
before I say my shout out, I want to read some of the comments. I saw some comments. So, a bunch of people were playing the game. It looks like Jacqueline Robinson, Vaughn Perry, Jeanette Brown. Everybody was playing. They got some right answers too. Look at that. By the way, it says Karen Yvette Tom says there's a museum in Greensboro that's worth visiting after COVID's over. And then the Woolworth Company is now a Foot Locker, says Mike Wolf. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So my shout out goes to Pi Cycling and Fitness in College Park, Maryland. The gym has struggled to survive the pandemic, but still open for business. If you're in the Washington D.C. area looking for amazing, clean, safe place to work out, please visit www.posh.fit. And hey, if you have a business, event, or person you want to give a shout out to, follow our hosts on social media and reach out to any of them in their social media feeds, and they may just shout you out. That is all the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for joining us. We hope that maybe you learned something, gained a new perspective, or just got some things off your chest. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, follow at TLSLiveShow. We need your support to keep this going. Also, click the donate button on our page so that you can donate if you'd like to. Now, if you missed any of today's episodes, subscribe on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to the audio replay of the podcast on iTunes or anywhere you listen to your podcast. I had a fun time today. I hope you did too. I learned so much. I'm sending a special thank you to Miss Carlotta Walls Lanier. Amazing story. We are truly honored you chose to share that story with us. Our next live show is on Wednesday, February 24th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll have Akil Abdullah, who was the first African-American male to qualify for the Summer Olympics in the sport of rowing, and the first African-American rower to win the coveted Diamond Sculls race. So should be another amazing show. And our winner for today's show was Miss Lizzie Enders. So Lizzie Enders gives our final thought for the day.
My final thought, just a reminder to everyone out there, all of our viewers, all of our listeners, this is the final week of Black History Month. Despite what you heard, despite what you think you know, there's still more to learn. So do some research, do some investigating, and figure out what's gone on with Black history in this country. Remember, Carter G. Woodson wrote The Miseducation of the Negro for a reason. And that reason was we weren't learning all about Black history. So go out, folks, and learn something.
This was an amazing show again, and I thank all that joined us. We had a packed show today on all the platforms, actually. A ton of people were watching, so I want to thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Gianni. Thank you, Lizzie. And we will see you next time.
Shenanigans, truth, lies, shenanigans.